For more than 2 decades, He Jiong was the unshakable center of China's television universe, a host so influential that producers, advertisers, and rising celebrities quietly referred to him as the man who could shape a career with a single smile. From the glittering stage of Happy Camp to the nationwide sensations built by Mango TV, he became the face of a $500 million entertainment empire, a symbol of stability in an industry defined by volatility. But in late 2021, a single scandal ignited questions that had quietly simmered beneath the surface for years, and the empire he helped build began to collapse at a speed no one thought possible. What started as whispers about fan gifting, questionable studio practices, and alleged income irregularities slowly evolved into a full-scale public reckoning, pushing China's most trusted host into the harshest spotlight of his career. As regulators tightened their grip on the entertainment world following previous tax and management controversies involving other public figures, the timing of the scrutiny surrounding He Jiong raised even deeper questions. Was this simply about a host receiving extravagant gifts, or was the fall of China's most influential presenter part of a much larger restructuring of power within the industry? And why did the collapse happen almost overnight after 20 years of unbroken dominance? This video uncovers the hidden networks, the financial machinery, and the silent forces behind one of the most dramatic downfalls in modern Chinese entertainment. For more than 20 years, He Jiong was not just a television presenter. He was the gravitational force of China's entire variety show economy, a system valued in the hundreds of millions and driven by ratings, commercial partnerships, and cultural influence. Long before his eventual collapse, he ruled the stage of Happy Camp, a program that once commanded audiences of over 100 million viewers per episode and served as a launchpad for nearly every major star of the post-2000 generation. While the surface image portrayed him as warm, humorous, and conflict-free, insiders understood that his true power came from something far more significant. He Jiong controlled access. And in China's entertainment world, access meant everything. Producers at Mango TV, one of China's most profitable broadcasters, often described him as the anchor of their entire content strategy. It was an unspoken truth in the industry that if He Jiong supported an artist, that artist's rise would be accelerated by national exposure. If he withheld support, their momentum slowed instantly. This influence was not formalized in contracts or job titles. It was the natural outcome of a host who delivered stable ratings for 20 years straight, generating enormous advertising revenue and maintaining a pristine public persona during eras when scandals routinely destroyed careers. His position placed him at the intersection of celebrity culture, corporate sponsorship, and audience loyalty, creating a model of power that very few entertainers could replicate. By the mid-2000s, He Jiong's responsibilities extended far beyond traditional hosting. He advised on casting decisions, consulted with showrunners about audience trends, and collaborated with executive producers on long-term programming strategies. His presence on new projects instantly reassured investors, who saw him as a low-risk, high-return figure capable of lifting a show from obscurity to national relevance. The level of trust placed in him was rare in a market where stars often rose and fell within just a few seasons. In contrast, He Jiong represented continuity, a familiar face in a rapidly shifting cultural landscape. But behind closed doors, this continuity came with consequences. As his influence expanded, the financial ecosystem built around him also grew. His personal brand became intertwined with studio partnerships, management networks, and cross-platform deals that fed into each other like gears in a carefully engineered machine. Opportunities gravitated toward him naturally, not just because of his popularity, but because his involvement often guaranteed commercial success. This alignment of power and profit made him a pillar of the industry, but it also made the system increasingly dependent on his image remaining flawless. Even before the scandal that would later erase everything, a quiet tension existed within the industry. Younger hosts hoped to rise. Producers debated how long the He Jiong era could continue, and executives questioned whether a single figure should hold so much influence over the variety show sector. Although none of these concerns were publicly acknowledged, they created an environment where even a minor controversy could trigger disproportionate consequences. As China's media landscape evolved and digital platforms began competing against traditional broadcasters, the question became unavoidable. What would happen if the foundation of this empire began to crack? That question, once hypothetical, would soon become a reality. But before the fall began, the industry had to confront a deeper truth. He Jiong's 20-year reign was not sustained by charisma alone. It relied on relationships, financial flows, and an intricate network designed to preserve stability. And when that stability was disrupted, the entire structure surrounding him began to shake. The unraveling of He Jiong's seemingly unbreakable empire did not begin with a major exposé or a government announcement. It began with something that appeared trivial on the surface: fan gifting. In the late 2000s, as China's entertainment industry underwent a transformation driven by social media, short video platforms, and aggressive fan culture, gifting became a powerful economic engine. Enthusiastic supporters of celebrities would send expensive items, sponsor elaborate displays, and even coordinate mass purchases of goods to demonstrate loyalty. What had once been a simple expression of appreciation escalated into a multi-billion yuan system. And without realizing it, He Jiong's name became entangled in this expanding world of unregulated generosity. For years, celebrities across China received gifts ranging from high-end electronics to designer products. But in 2020 and 2021, the scale changed dramatically. Reports emerged of fans buying luxury furniture, premium beverages, and other high-value items allegedly addressed to He Jiong, with some fandoms publicly posting purchase receipts exceeding tens of thousands of yuan. While many of these gestures were driven by admiration, they created a perception problem that no one in the industry had prepared for. When a clip resurfaced of He Jiong thanking fans for gifts during a live stream, it became a catalyst, a single moment that regulators and critics seized upon as evidence of deeper issues within celebrity culture. Under normal circumstances, receiving gifts might not have mattered. But China's entertainment sector was entering a period of intense scrutiny after widely publicized controversies involving tax reporting and management practices among several high-profile figures. The environment shifted rapidly, and activities that had long been tolerated began to receive harsher evaluation. Suddenly, what seemed like harmless generosity from fans raised questions about income tracking, studio transparency, and whether certain gifts could be interpreted as disguised payments tied to commercial partnerships. He Jiong's reputation, once untouchable, was now caught in the crossfire of a much larger movement to reform the industry. As online discussions gained traction, attention shifted toward the operation of He Jiong's studio, a business entity responsible for managing public relations, brand collaborations, and financial agreements. Although no official allegations were made regarding wrongdoing, critics questioned whether the studio had fully accounted for benefits associated with high-value gifts. Observers also wondered whether third-party companies might have exploited gifting culture to curry favor through unofficial channels, a concern highlighted by several analysts who noted the complexities of China's fan economy ecosystem. Inside the industry, whispers intensified. Producers and insiders speculated that the discussion around gifting had touched a nerve because it intersected with broader concerns about unmonitored capital flows within fandoms. A growing chorus of commentary suggested that the fan economy, once celebrated as a driving force of digital engagement, had grown too large and too chaotic, creating vulnerabilities that regulators were determined to address. He Jiong, positioned at the top of the variety world, became a symbol of what needed correction, not necessarily because of personal misconduct, but because his influence made him an ideal example. The shift in public sentiment was swift and brutal. In late 2021, hashtags linked to He Jiong surged across Chinese platforms, with millions of comments debating whether fan culture had gone too far. Some defended him fiercely, emphasizing that he neither encouraged nor profited from extravagant gifting. Others argued that public figures had a responsibility to discourage unhealthy spending behaviors within fandom communities. Amid the growing noise, major state-affiliated media outlets began releasing commentary, urging tighter oversight of celebrity fan interactions, creating an atmosphere where He Jiong's long-standing neutrality suddenly appeared insufficient. What made the situation more precarious was timing. China's entertainment regulators had already launched campaigns targeting irrational fan behavior, unregulated capital, and celebrity worship. Initiatives that had shaken the careers of several popular artists. He Jiong's involvement in a controversy, however minor it seemed compared to other high-profile scandals, aligned perfectly with the narrative that authorities were trying to address. Whether intentionally or coincidentally, the phenomenon of fan gifting became the opening through which critics reevaluated his entire career, prompting deeper scrutiny of the network surrounding him. Behind closed doors, industry insiders sensed the implications immediately. Executives at Mango TV reportedly became cautious, adjusting promotional materials and reevaluating long-term strategies involving He Jiong. Advertisers, ever sensitive to public sentiment, temporarily paused collaborations to avoid risk. Even colleagues who had worked with him for years quietly distanced themselves online. A man who once represented stability suddenly found himself treated as a potential liability. Yet, despite the escalating conversation, the true damage had not yet surfaced. The fan gifting controversy was not the fall. It was the trigger, the moment that shifted perception and opened the door to something far more consequential. It raised the question the public had not previously dared to ask. If a host as respected as He Jiong was involved in a culture filled with unmonitored exchanges and financial ambiguity, what else might the system be hiding? That question would soon push regulators to look deeper, not only at social behavior, but at the studio structures, income streams, and contract networks that had supported He Jiong's two-decade dominance. And once those questions were raised, the investigation that followed would alter his future in ways no one could have predicted. By the time the controversy over fan gifting peaked, China's entertainment industry had already entered a period of unprecedented restructuring. Beginning in 2018 and intensifying through 2021, regulators launched a series of campaigns aimed at curbing what they described as irrational celebrity culture, unmonitored capital flows, and non-compliant income channels. These efforts accelerated after high-profile cases involving figures such as Fan Bingbing and Zheng Shuang, whose financial irregularities triggered nationwide reform discussions. In this environment, even the slightest suggestion of financial ambiguity became a risk, even for someone as respected as He Jiong. Although he never faced formal accusations of tax fraud or intentional evasion, the conversation around undisclosed benefits and improperly reported gifts created what analysts described as an atmosphere of suspicion. Once the public began questioning the financial transparency of a figure as prominent as He Jiong, regulators had little choice but to examine the structure behind his work. The network of studios, management entities, and collaborative groups that handled contracts, income distribution, and brand partnerships on his behalf. He Jiong's main studio, like many celebrity-operated entities in China, played an essential role in negotiating commercial deals, coordinating sponsorships, and managing revenue streams tied to variety shows, publishing projects, and online appearances. These studios, while legal, existed in a regulatory gray area during the rapid expansion of China's entertainment sector. As scrutiny intensified, the complexity of such entities came under the microscope, especially when they were associated with high-value partnerships. Observers noted that studios often acted as intermediaries in ways that made it difficult for outside parties to determine the exact nature of certain transactions. For He Jiong, this meant that questions about gifting, no matter how unintentional, could easily expand into broader questions about accounting practices, contract structures, or whether certain income classifications had been accurately reported over the years. The issue was not whether any wrongdoing had occurred. The issue was that China's shifting regulatory climate no longer tolerated ambiguity. As one industry insider noted at the time, when the environment changes, even innocence becomes complicated. Throughout late 2021 and early 2022, subtle signs of pressure began to appear. Promotional materials for new seasons of popular shows were quietly modified, removing or reducing He Jiong's presence. Plans for special televised events were reorganized, with other hosts taking more prominent roles. Episodes of long-running programs underwent edits before broadcast, shortening segments featuring him or adjusting their placement within the show's structure. No public explanation was given, and neither Mango TV nor He Jiong Studio made any direct statements, but viewers quickly noticed the shift. Silence, in this context, was more powerful than any announcement. The absence of clear communication created a vacuum that online speculation swiftly filled. Commentators debated whether He Jiong was under official review, whether his studio had been asked to provide financial documentation, or whether the broadcaster was preemptively distancing itself as a protective measure. None of these claims were confirmed, but the mere existence of such questions signaled a critical change. He Jiong was no longer insulated by the reputation that had shielded him for 2 decades. Behind the scenes, the entertainment industry understood the implications even more clearly. During regulatory reform cycles in China, broadcasters often adopt conservative approaches to avoid potential penalties. This includes adjusting casting decisions, slowing down promotional activity, and limiting exposure for figures who attract scrutiny, even if they have not been accused of wrongdoing. He Jiong's reduced visibility aligned perfectly with these cautionary patterns, suggesting that his long-standing programs were being quietly recalibrated to mitigate risk. It was during this time that analysts began discussing the possibility of a deeper structural issue, one that went beyond gifting or income classification. Some insiders speculated that the examination of He Jiong's network might reflect broader tensions within the variety industry, where powerful figures, long-standing monopolies, and entrenched studio relationships occasionally clashed with new institutional priorities. The entertainment sector was transitioning towards stricter oversight, digital transparency, and ideological alignment. Any system built around a single influential figure, no matter how popular, was vulnerable in such an environment. The most striking development was the abrupt decline in his on-screen frequency. By 2022, viewers who were accustomed to seeing He Jiong weekly began noticing long gaps between appearances. A host who had once been synonymous with consistency suddenly seemed absent. This absence, combined with the swirling speculation, effectively transformed a man who had been a national fixture into a symbol of uncertainty within the industry. Even without official sanction, the shift signaled that something fundamental had changed. At the center of this transformation was a question the industry could not overlook. Was the controversy surrounding He Jiong merely a matter of public relations? Or was it a catalyst for a deeper reevaluation of how variety hosts interacted with capital, fandom, and corporate networks? The uncertainty created by this question reverberated across studios, advertisers, and regulatory bodies. And yet, for all the speculation, one reality became increasingly clear. The collapse of He Jiong's presence on national television was not the result of a single incident, but a sequence of events unfolding within a rapidly changing environment. It was the momentum behind those changes, not the scandal itself, that pushed him toward a silence more damaging than any accusation. As the investigation atmosphere deepened, another layer of the story emerged. In a system built on power, visibility, and influence, who actually benefited from the sudden vacuum left by China's most recognizable host? As He Jiong's presence on national television quietly receded, the industry found itself asking a question few dared to voice aloud. Who gained from the sudden weakening of China's most influential host? In a system as vast and hierarchical as the Chinese entertainment industry, a vacuum of that magnitude does not remain empty for long. Power redistributes, agendas shift, and alliances are quietly forged behind closed doors. To understand the true impact of He Jiong's collapse, one must examine the structural forces operating beneath the surface, forces that had been building pressure long before the controversy erupted. The first group positioned to benefit was the rising generation of presenters and entertainers, aligned with Mango TV's new strategic direction. In the late 2000s, as younger viewers gravitated toward short-form platforms and interactive streaming content, traditional broadcasters sought to reinvent themselves, aiming to cultivate fresh faces that fit contemporary tastes. While He Jiong remained beloved by older audiences, his iconic status and long-standing dominance posed a challenge to this transformation. His continued presence limited opportunities for new hosts to emerge, as most high-profile programs depended heavily on his reliability and influence. When his visibility suddenly decreased, these emerging talents gained airtime and promotional support they had previously struggled to access. Whether intentional or coincidental, the shift created momentum that realigned the host hierarchy. Yet the forces at play extended beyond generational transition. Corporate restructuring also shaped the landscape. As Mango TV expanded into multi-channel ecosystems, including digital variety units, branded content studios, and e-commerce integrations, executives sought to diversify the network's image and reduce reliance on a single personality. This approach mirrored a broader trend in Chinese media, which increasingly favored institutional strength over individual celebrity power. Analysts observed that such strategies aligned with national regulatory goals, promoting stability, reducing celebrity-centered economies, and curbing excessive fandom behavior. Within this framework, designs to recalibrate the broadcaster's talent structure may have been in motion long before the scandal surfaced. Advertising partners also had incentives to adapt. For years, He Jiong served as a bridge between commercial brands and entertainment programming, offering unparalleled credibility. But as regulations tightened around celebrity endorsements and platform integrations, many advertisers sought hosts with more flexible public images, figures who could be shaped to fit new compliance standards. The decline of a $500 million empire created opportunities for brands to renegotiate contracts, shift promotional budgets, and reposition marketing strategies around younger or more adaptable personalities. Such realignments reflected economic pragmatism rather than personal conflict, but the outcome remained the same. The system benefited from spreading influence across multiple figures, instead of depending solely on He Jiong's long-standing appeal. Meanwhile, within the industry's backstage networks, power players who had long operated in He Jiong's shadow found unexpected leverage. For 2 decades, his dominance made it difficult for other seasoned hosts to command equal authority. With the landscape destabilized, veteran presenters gained space to reassert themselves, securing roles in programs previously associated with his hosting style. Some observers claimed that the reforms accelerated internal rivalries, though no concrete evidence linked these shifts to personal agendas. Still, the competitive recalibration reflected how systemic change often manifests, not through explicit conflict, but through the natural repositioning that follows a major disruption. Beyond the immediate industry, the regulatory environment subtly benefited as well. By examining the financial and managerial structures surrounding such a high-profile figure, authorities gained clearer insight into long-standing industry practices that had evolved faster than oversight could manage. The scrutiny surrounding He Jiong, regardless of its outcomes, served as a warning that even the most respected cultural figures were not exempt from compliance expectations. In this sense, his fall reinforced regulatory authority and strengthened public trust in emerging oversight mechanisms. As one media analyst noted at the time, the system did not target him. The system needed to demonstrate that no one is above reform. Yet perhaps the most striking shift occurred in audience perception. For 20 years, He Jiong symbolized continuity, warmth, and national familiarity, a presence viewers associated with weekend comfort and shared cultural memory. His abrupt absence reshaped the emotional landscape of variety television, prompting viewers to reassess their relationship to the industry. This introspection generated interest in alternative formats and personalities, fueling diversification across streaming platforms. As audiences fragmented, power decentralized even further, supporting a media ecosystem less dependent on singular icons. Still, the question lingered. Was He Jiong's fall inevitable, or did certain groups actively push for change? While there is no verifiable evidence of a coordinated effort, the alignment of institutional goals, market shifts, and generational transitions created conditions where his decline served multiple interests simultaneously. In an environment undergoing sweeping reform, the system often moves not through individual decisions, but through accumulated pressures that converge into a single transformative moment. The ultimate truth may be simpler than conspiracy theories suggest. When an industry evolves, the figures who defined its previous era often become symbols of what must be restructured. He Jiong, once the face of China's television boom, found himself in the crosscurrents of shifting cultural expectations, regulatory tightening, and corporate strategy. His fall was not merely the result of a scandal. It was the culmination of a landscape ready to move on. But while others benefited from his decline, one question persisted. What happened to the empire he once stabilized, and what remained for him after 20 years of shaping China's television identity? Despite the magnitude of the shift occurring around him, He Jiong never released a public statement explaining his reduced presence, nor did Mango TV issue any clarification. The absence of explanation became its own narrative, leaving audiences to assemble meaning from silence. Shows that had once relied on his steady hand began adjusting their formats. His trademark chemistry with co-hosts vanished from weekly screens, and the man once described as the emotional anchor of Chinese entertainment faded into an irregular guest, appearing only when absolutely necessary and never with the prominence he once commanded. For viewers accustomed to seeing him multiple times a week, the contrast was stark enough to feel like a cultural shift. The decline in visibility did not merely affect programming, it transformed the financial machinery surrounding him. For years, advertisers had viewed He Jiong as a safe, stable endorsement figure whose reputation carried none of the volatility associated with explosive celebrity fandoms or controversy-prone idols. His absence forced brands to reassess long-term deals, redirecting budgets to alternative hosts, or to the rising class of digital influencers dominating China's new media landscape. This reallocation weakened the ecosystem that had helped sustain his two-decade influence. It wasn't an official cancellation, it was a slow structural erosion, the kind that permanently shifts an industry's balance. At the same time, audiences began to sense an emotional gap in the shows he once carried. Programs like Happy Camp, built on ensemble dynamics, struggled to replicate the familiarity and sincerity he brought to the screen. Even as the format evolved and new hosts were introduced, ratings reflected a clear reality. The trust and comfort He Jiong established over 20 years could not be replaced overnight. Analysts pointed out that his greatest asset had never been dramatic charisma or comedic intensity. It was stability. He was the calm presence viewers grew up with, a bridge across generations. And when that presence diminished, the industry lost a piece of its identity. Yet the narrative that He Jiong lost everything is more complicated than the abrupt disappearance suggested. While his on-screen frequency fell sharply, he did not retreat entirely from public life. Select appearances showed him maintaining professionalism, contributing to charitable events, and supporting youth-oriented educational programs. These appearances carried a quieter tone, suggesting a recalculated approach to maintaining public goodwill without attracting excessive attention. Some observers interpreted this as voluntary restraint, others as a necessary adaptation, and still others as a strategic repositioning to ride out regulatory sensitivity. Industry insiders argued that He Jiong's fall was less about scandal and more about alignment, the need for broadcasters and celebrities to adapt to new cultural expectations. In this environment, stepping back was not necessarily punishment. It could be survival. A more subdued presence allowed him to maintain dignity, avoid further scrutiny, and preserve the goodwill accumulated over 2 decades. Rather than vanishing, he redistributed his visibility in a way that reflected the realities of China's new entertainment landscape. Still, the emotional weight of the fall cannot be dismissed. Fans who had grown up with him expressed shock at how quickly the system seemed to shift, wondering whether loyalty counted for anything in a world driven by compliance, optics, and shifting public sentiment. Others questioned whether he had long been overexposed, suggesting that his reduced presence allowed the industry to evolve naturally. And yet, beneath these debates lay a deeper truth. He Jiong had never aimed to be controversial. He became a casualty of an entertainment system undergoing transformation, where even the smallest misstep or misperception could spiral into a nationwide discussion. As for the empire he once anchored, its remnants remain scattered across the programs that continue without him. His legacy endures in the hosting techniques younger presenters try to imitate, in the emotional tone of variety shows shaped by his influence, and in the memories of viewers who associated him with family weekends and national celebrations. His decline did not erase 20 years of impact. It revealed how interconnected his career had become with the structure of Chinese entertainment. When he shifted, everything shifted. And so, the final question becomes unavoidable. Will He Jiong, after weathering the storm of changing regulations, market pressures, and public expectation, ever return to reclaim even a fraction of the empire he once oversaw? Or has the system already moved on, leaving him as a symbol of an era that can no longer exist in the new Chinese entertainment landscape? The answers remain unclear, but the silence surrounding him has become one of the most telling stories of all. In the end, the story of He Jiong is not simply the downfall of a beloved host or the unraveling of a $500 million television empire. It is a reflection of how rapidly the foundations of an industry can shift when cultural expectations, regulatory priorities, and corporate strategies collide at the same moment. For 20 years, He Jiong represented the stabilizing rhythm of Chinese television, a figure whose presence defined an era of variety programming built on warmth, familiarity, and unprecedented viewer loyalty. His sudden retreat exposed the fragile balance beneath that success, revealing an entertainment world where influence is powerful, but only until the system decides it must evolve. What makes his collapse so striking is the absence of clear closure. No official announcement, no public confrontation, no definitive explanation. Just a silence that grew louder with every week he remained off-screen. That silence spoke to a deeper reality. In a landscape shaped by regulation and perception, careers do not always end with a dramatic fall. Sometimes they fade, absorbed by forces bigger than any single individual. And yet, the question lingers: did He Jiong truly lose everything, or did the industry simply turn a page he was not meant to follow? His legacy remains embedded in the shows, the formats, and the emotional tone of a generation. Whether he returns or not, the impact he left cannot be erased. His story is a reminder that even the most trusted icons can be reshaped by a single shift in the cultural current.